I was in New York visiting my brother. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was sort of mid-career, and I saw the sort of Starbucks-style coffee bars for the first time. And I just couldn't believe it because I was used to the office coffee machine. I couldn't believe, you could have some skinny latte in these different sizes and the kind of different flavors. And, in a way they'd taken a normal commodity that I just thought, black and white coffee or a really bad cappuccino, which I was used to at home, and turned it into this amazing experience. And it was all about the experience in a way. It was all about the fact that, and which is what coffee bars are, that, you leave the house on your way to work. It's not just about the cup of coffee you get. It's about the whole ritual of going in there and hearing the hiss of the machines and the, boiling of your milk and grinding of the coffee and the smells and seeing all that stuff. It's become a way of life, I think, really. Yeah. Well, God, it was like a nightmare, actually. We needed to raise 90 grand to open the first store. We called up 40 bank managers, got interviews with 20. 19 said to us, "You're crazy." We said, "Why are we crazy?" They were like, "Well, what are we known for in this country? Tea, tea drinking. So who brings coffee to nation of tea drinkers?" But in a way, we believed in it ourselves. And, one bank manager after the other said no, until the 20th bank manager that we saw physically eye to eye. So that was the 39th one we actually called, said yes. So I kind of thought I was pretty resilient. Resilience is something that entrepreneurs have because you've got nothing else but resilience. In a way, you've got an idea and everyone's saying no, and you have to use that kind of resilience muscle, that persistence muscle, because by definition you're an outsider and you're innovating a new market. Now, in a corporate world, in a way, it's sort of been fairly stable. So you don't really get many no's. You might get it when you're applying for the job, but once you're there, it's fairly, you've got a tried and tested product and kind of fairly stable. No one's seeing there. So I think the resilience muscles get a bit kind of out of shape. So people are not used to being resilient. And I suppose the difference now is in this world, even in the corporate world, you've got to keep trying new things and people are going to say no. And if you get into that situation that you're avoiding the no's and, you're not used to them, and in a way people sometimes as well self-file, they know they're going to get a no, they don't even try it, then you're not using the resilience muscles, which is why my whole kind of approach is using those tools entrepreneurs use to start a business in kind of mature traditional companies. Gosh, I regret selling the business very much. It was one of the most stupid things I've ever done. We thought, great, we built a great company. We were named as one of the kind of great brands of New Britain, second after IKEA. We had a stable, sort of nice bank account, valued at 50 million on the main stock exchange, cash in the bank. And we thought we're going to give it to the corporates. We're going to give it to, they don't have passion or anything, but they know they're managers in a way to run the company. And of course, they took the company to the ground. I mean, 8 years after we sold, the company went into administration. 8 years. And it was very painful to watch that in a way. And we never thought that's what would happen. We just thought they'll just take the company and just keep it, which is why I now see that, you need that passion, you need that entrepreneurial edge to grow a company in what was essentially a really, competitive market. You need to always be just a bit special. Just doing what you always did is not going to work, and giving it to managers and being all corporate about it, nothing happens. Well, when I saw my stake, I was actually, I just felt so empty. I really missed it. And someone said, write a book. And I thought, I can't write a book. I don't know how to write a book. I can't even write a letter to someone to thank them for something. But I ended up writing Anyone Could Do It, because I realized actually no one talked about entrepreneurship. And it was always that myth of kind of Richard Branson, and you had to have almost like a special chromosome to be an entrepreneur. And so I thought, well, gosh, I mean, I'm the most unlikely entrepreneur, and my brother as well. So if we did it, then anyone could do it, which is why we called it Anyone Could Do It. And really, it was on the back of the book that I've started this kind of career that I'm now in, because first that book was for entrepreneurs, and encouraging entrepreneurship, especially across the country at that time, which is now why we're sort of startup nation. We really weren't back then. But then big companies started asking me to speak about that special sort of magic source of entrepreneurship, what that is. What that is that gives startups their soul and the special energy and that kind of deep sense of connection to customers of the company. And so on the back of that really is when I wrote my other 2 books and sort of what I do at the moment. Startup Forever was basically my answer to this dilemma in big companies that everyone sort of always says, with the pace of disruption and the crazy pace of change, we need to change how we behave. And whether or not big companies can behave entrepreneurially, everyone's always looking for it. We want to have a more entrepreneurial culture. But I think people put that very much on a pedestal. If you go to the dictionary, for example, when you look up the word entrepreneur, the antonym of entrepreneur is employee. So there's always been the feeling that, employee and entrepreneurships are exactly at the opposite end of the spectrum. So therefore, a big company can never be entrepreneurial. And I wrote Startup Forever, again, from my own experience, that you have to be a startup forever. You have to keep that startup soul alive in big companies. From my own experience, I saw that there were a couple of things that happen in a startup that don't in big companies. So I've got these sort of 10 shifts in thinking. And they're nothing new to do. It's just a different attitude of looking at day-to-day stuff. And when you do that, you start behaving more entrepreneurially, you start behaving differently, and therefore the culture changes towards being more entrepreneurial. I've seen there are 6 sort of behaviors in a way that can change culture and make it more entrepreneurial. The first one is being your own customer, not just kind of looking at customers like they are some data or a market segment, but genuinely spending time with them, seeing your business from the inside out. Once you start doing that, in a way, you're seeing what the problems are in your business that you're missing out sitting at your desk. And when you see the problems, innovation is just a fancy word for solving a problem. So you've got to get as close as you can, what they call zero distance with customers. But then, some things get in the way of you getting close to customers. So first, busyness, you mustn't be too busy, where there's a sort of certain comfort in being busy. We all love being busy, sitting there doing our forms and things. And I sort of call it comfort admin. But that actually stops people getting close to customers. As a leader, too much micromanaging and giving people too much bureaucracy is comfortable and safe, but it's actually not good for business. So in a way, attacking the bureaucracy and giving people free time to be out there with customers. The second one is being clueless, not being stuck in this is how we always do things, having an open mind, being curious about your business, seeing it as an outsider. Why do we do things that way? What if we tried another way? Bootstrapping, experimenting, not giving up at the first one, not trying to do things on a big scale, small scale. You don't need a lot of resources to do things. It's the small changes make big innovations. And the fourth one, resilience, fear. I think there's a lot of fear of trying new things in big companies. And, people don't sort of see it as fear, but it's there when people don't try new things. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to make a mistake. And that's got to go because innovation can't happen without it. And the end result of all that is you've got an amazing kind of human culture. Because for me, that sort of entrepreneurial culture is not about, foosball tables and Prosecco on tap and that sort of idea of what a WeWork office is and sort of dogs and sort of things. It's actually about everyone being engaged in the purpose of the business and everyone working towards this mutual purpose. And that, for me, is the kind of, in a way, the thing about entrepreneurial culture and where you are. And it's this balance between, having systems and controls, but the whole passion, curiosity, empathy stuff is really important. So just making sure one doesn't sort of take over the other. Yeah, well, I mean, at the beginning, when I first wrote my book, Anyone Can Do It, I spoke to only entrepreneurial companies, only, entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. And then slowly, I remember maybe after a year of speaking, big companies asked me to speak. But of course, every time I spoke to big companies, there was a jerk always before saying, I hope when you tell your story, not everyone's going to resign and it's just going to be a disaster. Or I would hate it. I'd get off the stage and they'd be like, oh God, is everyone going to resign now and go on and start up a business? And we've moved a long way from there. whereby people are like, oh my God, that's what I want to hear, that entrepreneurial culture. So, that idea of inviting an entrepreneur to a big company, was no longer about the fact that, kind of perhaps you were giving them a sort of another option. It was genuinely like, listen, there's things we've got to learn. There are things we can borrow from an entrepreneur's journey. So that's what's changing. That's what I'm really excited about because, and I've learned that. I've spoken now to over 400 companies, and you can just see, to where the barriers are, where that whole thing about, for me, the customer connection. People talk about customer service like a cliche, but actually, you really know, does everyone know what you're serving? Does everyone have that real emotional closeness to customers? Is everyone trying to delight customers, or are you just looking at numbers and targets? That whole, how to really bring a soul back into a big company so that you can get this new generation interested in working, you get everyone buzzed every day. That's the real challenge I think big companies got. And it's sort of where I think I really love, because I have been an entrepreneur. I have started a company from scratch, but I've also been a corporate person before I started my company. And then I've seen my company get big and lose the entrepreneurial culture. So I've seen all sides of it. And I could just see so clearly where the obstacles are. And I think it's so doable, it's so easy, and it's a real silver lining for big companies to change their culture.